This is question 5, and it's a question guaranteed to come up on a not on a calculator paper, and it's trigonometry. So what we're told is we've got to work out the value of x here, so the length of this side, and we've got a right angle triangle. So we're going to use SOHCAHTOA for this. So SOHCAHTOA is something which helps us remember the trig functions. So we've got SOH there is that telling me that sine of an angle. So if I call it sine, I'm going to call it theta. Now that's a bit confusing possibly, but it's just a representation for an angle. So it's just a letter that's often used to say an angle there. So we're going to say sine of the angle is always equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. And if we do a similar thing for this one, C, that stands for cos. And I'm going to again use, this is a Greek letter, this symbol, theta, it doesn't matter what letter we was using. And cos is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And the last one, T, stands for tangent, which is tan of the angle is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. So where these opposites, adjacents and hypotenuses come from is if we have a right angle triangle, and for example, if the angle was here, then we would call the side opposite the right angle the hypotenuse, hype for short. The one opposite where the angle was is the opposite, not surprisingly. And the one next to where the angle is the adjacent. And actually, it's important to know that if the angle was in a different place, so let's say it wasn't there anymore, but it was there, then the opposite and the adjacent would then flip over, because now this is the side opposite the angle, and this one is the adjacent to the angle. So it depends where the angle is as to which sides become the opposite and the adjacent. But the hypotenuse is always the longest side that's opposite the right angle. So if we look at our triangle that we've got here, we are interested in finding the one that is opposite to the angle, and we're given the hypotenuse. So we need to decide which one are we going to use, sine, cos or tan, and we can see that sine will include the opposite and the hypotenuse. So I'm going to create an equation for that. I'm just going to make a bit of space here. So we're going to use the sine one, and we're going to say that sine of the angle, so we're given the angle, so we don't use a letter now because we're actually given what the angle is, sine 34, is equal to the opposite, which is x, over the hypotenuse, which is what the h stands for, which is 178. And if we rearrange that, so we could times both sides by 178 to get the x on its own, so that would cancel there. We end up with x equals 178 times sine 34. And so for this, I'm going to use my calculator, and I need to make sure that we're in the right mode for the angle. So we'll know that because there'll be a D on there to represent degrees. And so I can say, just put that in, 178 times sine 34. Just close the bracket, and I'll get there 99.536, just writing it to a few decimal places, 0.536. And in fact, we've got to do it to one decimal place. So we're doing it to one decimal place, we're cutting it off at that point. And because the 3 is below 5, we're actually keeping it as it's written. So it's just going to be 99.5 degrees. And that's it. That's our final answer. So I hope that's been helpful to you. And if it has, please consider subscribing to our channel and also giving our video a thumbs up. Thanks very much.